is Lizzie Marzinka, licensed in Chicago and Miami. A lot of my investors, whether they're first-time investors or seasoned investors, a lot of them have one thing in common, which is they want sweat equity and they want to do some type of rehab project. So most of the options that my clients do are either the 203K option. This is the best option if you are okay to physically move in the property, you have less money to put down, and you're really putting in that sweat equity of you physically being there. It's important to keep in mind that while the work is going on, you do not have to occupy the property. You are going to be occupying it once the work is completed. If you are, so as long as there is a slab of a solid foundation, that counts. So a lot of people, especially in the south side right now, my clients are looking just for some vacant lots of land that as long as they have a slab, we're able to go this route. Once you get pre-approved through Mike, we will have a full breakdown. So say you get pre-approved for 700K. We find a slab or a piece of property for 500K. That means 200K is your rehab cost that we are working with. Another option, hard money / the renovation loan. The best option if you have more cash to play, and it's also going to be viewed as a straight cash offer when we are submitting these offers. Budget, location, scope of work. These three things are going to be your most key important takeaways from this whole presentation. It always comes down to the numbers, especially if you are an investor. It's less emotion, straight, do the numbers make sense, yes or no. We will have a spreadsheet that when we're working together on certain deals that we input in all of the information. It's either green or it's red, meaning the numbers make sense or they don't. So it's very straightforward. Location. ARV value, meaning once we find a property, I'm gonna run comps of saying, okay, once we figure out what is gonna be our scope of work, maybe it's just gonna be minor cosmetic upgrades of 20 to 50K per unit. Maybe we're gonna go a full scope of a full gut of anywhere from 75 to 100K per unit. Once we figure out what exactly we're gonna be doing, I then run the ARV comps of showing within our area, this is what it's going to be, along with rental comps after. Whether we're gonna go the market tenant or the voucher route, if we're wanting to go the voucher route, picking an area in a high mobility area is key because you're able to get a lot more money when you go the voucher route. And also with location, you're gonna notice there's a direct correlation between your rental comps, especially with the ARV, that when I'm running the comps, it's gonna be very narrow, it's not gonna be super wide, only because for the 203K, when you have a HUD consultant and we're working with more parties, they only view it for a small radius. So you can't be in Bucktown, but you're purchasing in Albany Park, but you're using Bucktown comps. It's very narrow and specific. Scope of work. So in order to provide the most accurate scope of work, it's either gonna be minor cosmetic upgrades. I consider that 50 to 25K. Full gut is anywhere from 75 to 150, depending on how big the project is going to be. So when you are planning, it's all about what type of investor do you want to be. Are you looking for a quick fix and flip and you want to go the hard money route? Or do you want to be more of the strategic play and go more of the buy and hold? Like I said, location is going to be everything. Some investors, all they want to do is buy in up and coming neighborhoods. Others, for their peace of mind, feel more comfortable buying in an area that's already well known. We already have strong rental comps. Some of my investors right now, especially in the South Side specifically, are buying up the whole lot because it takes a whole team or one individual to really bring up the whole value street by street. So that is a play as well. So the steps. This is specifically for the 203K option. There's going to be 4 big overviews. First, we have to secure a property. When we are reviewing properties, you may hear oftentimes listing agents or the owner, they don't want to deal anything with 203K. It really comes down to their lack of knowledge, that it really is straightforward as long as you have a good team in place with the proper tools and resources to create that success for you. So once we find a property that's open to 203K, we're gonna go ahead and submit the property. Same with hard money. Again, you can close in 10 days because it truly is considered a cash offer. You can move quite fast on the hard money loans. Then especially for the 203K, we're gonna receive 2 to 3 different types of bids. There is a HUD website where you're able to find consultants along with GCs that I've worked in the past that truly their whole entire niche is the 203K option. Who you work with truly matters. So you always hear of the horror stories of I worked with a GC, gave them my first payment of 50K, they're nowhere to be found. Now you know with the 203K, it's more tedious, but it's also more for your peace of mind because there's more steps in place to make sure that your money is protected through the loan. That's because the whole reason of your pre-approval is based with the rehab loan as well. Compared to if you just go conventional, you find your own GC, it's kind of if you found someone okay, but this truly is verified and it's gonna make sure that it's done properly. Someone had a question about the draws. So after each portion of the work is complete, an inspector will come typically within a week or two. You kind of have to give them a little bit of a nudge so that they actually come out on time so that you can complete. A lot of time when they do the drywalling and the electrical, you cannot move on to phase 2 of patching up the drywall until the work has been verified that you're able to go through. So once each work is done properly and up to code, they will receive their next bid to begin their work. Once the work is complete, the inspector will sign off, the GC will receive their final payment, and everyone is happy with hopefully the final scope of work and the project. So why do people enjoy this route, specifically for the 203K? If you're really looking to put in that sweat equity and occupy the property while only putting down as little as 3.5%, this is going to be your route. You do not need to come out of pocket for the renovation cost, which is basically the huge plus. Why people avoid this route? Because sometimes the work can take 1+ years depending on if we need to get an architect, depending on the draws, if the GC is slacking and we have to change it midway. Also during the winter time, one of my clients, his pipe burst. So then we had to go into the emergency contingency fund. So you always have to prepare for the unexpected, and that it kind of is the risk reward factor to figure out how you want to play. And truly, the most feedback I get is people feel like this is their second full-time job. So if you already have, 2 jobs or 1 full-time job, another side gig, prepared for this to be your third, because even though you're not going to be occupying it until the work is done, more times than not, every weekend you're there checking it for peace of mind. You're checking in on the GCs to make sure that the work's being done, and just for your peace of mind, you're always thinking about it, making sure and thinking what's going to be done, picking out the final touches, etc. So keep in mind, only you can decide if you are ready for this, and it's not to be taken lightly, that there are, there's really good stories out there, and there's also stories that have tried the 203K option, and they ran out of funds, they did not plan the right person. So there's the good, the bad, the ugly. That's why I give it all to you. And prepare for the unexpected. So with the 203K specifically, you're going to have an emergency fund that's already built into the loan. So say, for example, the pipe burst. You decide that you want to do central AC that was not in your scope of budget. If things that are not already on the main list that you're wanting to do, you are able to tap into that emergency fund and know that you're already protected. So here is one of my client success stories. This was in Springfield in Albany Park. We purchased it back in 2022 for $295. The rehab was $200K. We finished in May. So the plan was eventually to be a buy and hold for quite some time, but come 23 when the market was super hot, ended up selling for $710. The whole plan was to use it for Airbnb, which we did, and we sent new rental comps for that area. The biggest thing with this property is it was on the market for quite some time. 1, because it needed quite a bit of work, and 2, everyone thought that the garden unit was not a legal unit. Plot twist, this was a legal 3 unit. So a really good deal for it to be a legal 3 unit. Here are some of the before and after photos that you can see. So this is the basement, and what we ended up doing as well, as you can see, we wanted to make the ceilings a little bit higher. So once we took everything out, went ahead and drilled into the ground to create more depth, which made a huge difference in the after effect as well. So as you can see, this is a full gut. Not every 203K has to look like this, but that's how we were able to sell it for the amount that we ended up, is because you really put in that amount of money. Kitchen area. This is the second unit. Another one. So this was 203K in Albany Park as well. What I like to highlight about this is, with us being investors, it all comes down to numbers. Our best and final was 300K. They were asking 330. They were very firm that she wanted 330 and ended up waiting until 2 weeks and finally came back around. Lizzie, is your client still interested? Because she actually wants to proceed. So that's why I always tell my client, when it's your best and final, stick to it. And more times than not, if it's a property that is distressed and been on the market for some time, they will come back around to make the deal happen. The work recently just started. So again, purchased it for 330. We put in about 150K, which was 70 to 75 per unit. We did use the contingency fund, and it was to install central AC. The ARV is around 550. So his short-term plan is to get the appraisal done and to do the refi and to repeat the process. Because again, once a year you're able to repeat the process. Once you do a few and have it under your belt and you are okay with the mindset of, yes, I'm going to be moving each year for the long-term play of buy and hold to get your properties, it becomes quite easy to keep rinse and repeat. Yeah, we did quite a bit of work in here as well. You'll notice in another picture, this was a low-bearing wall, so we ended up knocking that out to create a very open floor plan. The kitchens, the baths. The biggest thing in terms of ARV is to keep in mind what type of renter are we wanting to attract and what type of rental comps are we trying to produce. From the renter side, the biggest thing is in-unit washer dryer, central AC, and updated kitchen and bath. So that was our main focal point. Yeah. And you can see we even kept the mirror, so it's not like every single project you have to erase everything. We kept the brick and just painted it white instead, but really taking down that wall has a huge open layout now. And another one, so this is also a different financing option as well. Ohio Street near Ukrainian Village, asking $625, purchased it for $618. The plan is to rehab the 2 units. Right now it is still owner occupied by both, but this is a long-term buy and hold where the equity in this area and the rental comps are so very strong and so very good, which made the clients want to go in an area that was already well known compared to gambling on, will the area be up and coming, when will it be up and coming? The plan is potentially to do a HELOC, which again, Mike said, there's no HUD consultant needed, meaning that if he's a handyman or she's a handy girl, she's able to do the work themselves and already have the money to do so. Here's some pictures of the current inside. Okay, so again, mindset is everything. Keep in mind, it's not an overnight success. It's very calculated. The spreadsheet that I use, it's very in-depth, to put it very simple, but as you get more familiar with using it, all the numbers just kind of plug and chug, just plug and chug. Numbers don't lie. The deal either works or it doesn't, and it takes a team of A+ players. You will learn along the way to really trust the vision. Some clients where I show them the before and after photos, they would never be able to see the vision, but it takes being able to see the before and after photos and being able to see, can you knock down a wall? Can you open up this to really change the whole entire outlook of a property? And you will definitely learn along the way. Feel comfortable to ask any and all questions. The best communication is clear communication and full transparency, that the whole goal is to make sure you understand what's going on, not just showing up to the closing table and saying, all right, what's going on next? What did I just sign up for? That you 100% know along the way. So here is showing in terms of the trend of the zip code 60622, fairly common in the Chicagoland area compared to the entire MLS. Back in 08 compared to now, it's $350 and $797 for the multi-unit average price. Here's for days on market, again, numbers never lied, MLS 72 days, and for the zip code 63 days. I always hear me say, and you'll say whether you're my past client or future client, timing is everything and trust your gut, that if you have a good intuition on a building, trust those numbers and trust your gut, and timing is everything. No one can tell you when you're ready to start this investment journey because there's a lot of moving parts to take in, but when you are ready, you're finally gonna feel the nudge to know that there's a full team that's gonna guide you and take you along. And I always say, let's stay connected, my social media, and I will hand out more of my info at the very end as well. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Lizzie?
Yeah.
So I know Rebecca James has stayed in the property for a year. When does that timeline start? Right? Because if you buy a slab and it takes 6 months to build something on that slab, you're not able to move in for those first 6 months. Is that 1 year timeline starting from the move-in date or from when the loan?
It starts once the work has started. So once the work's completed, if the work's completed 6 months, you have a 6 months remaining that you're needing to occupy.
That was my question.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's say I come property with an eviction already. When I say home property, can I come to the eviction at the same time?
No.
Not at the same time, you have to wait.
So I can't.
Correct.
Okay.
So you talked about the draws and how it ties into, like, for example, the annual inspections. So how does that tie in, like, do you have to schedule the inspection with the lender before you do it, or do you think, like, the inspection in the city of Chicago will suffice as, like, evidence for that inspection?
You'll have a HUD consultant, and then you're gonna have a huge breakdown of the scope of work, the estimated cost, and what you're going to be doing first. Once the GC is ready to do their next phase of work, it's like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Once they're done with phase 1, they will let you know, hey, we're gonna be done with this work in about 3 days, go ahead and schedule for the next draw.
And you have to witness it?
You physically,
On site, or-
you physically do not have to be there, but an inspector is gonna be there with the GC. More times than not, a lot of 203K people are very hands-on, so they're going to make sure that they're there, just to walk it and to see it for their peace of well-being, to know that, all right, we pass and everything's up to code. If anything's not up to code, they will flag it, you then have to fix it, and then wait again another 2 to 3 weeks. That's why the process can take some time. Any other questions?
Does a HUD consultant replace a city inspector, or
No,
do you need both
both.
a HUD inspection and a city inspector?
The HUD consultant is there almost on your side to help guide you, but still, they're going to be there. In terms of needing a city inspector, that's typically if you're doing anything that requires any extensive permits.
Right.
And I have found it where there are city inspectors who are also HUD counselors.
2 for
So
1.
if you can find a guy that does both, you save yourself a little bit of cash.
Awesome. Yes?
HUD inspector, he's kind of just making sure that everything moves along the path that it's supposed to protect the investment, right?
Protect
Correct.
the investment and hold the GC accountable. If he notices, because that again is his full-time job, if he gets a bid from a GC that seems a little bit expensive or a little bit under, he'll bring it to your attention. Hey, this seems to be a little extra, go ahead and ask if they're gonna raise it or lower it, because it's really not market value right now. So he's in your corner.
Right there on your side.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my understanding that you could roll, like, let's say, your rent into the loan if it's taking too long. Have you guys heard anything about that?
So you can build in essentially like a reserve amount that will essentially will cover like the cost for you to live somewhere else. You can build that into the financing, if that's the question that you're asking. Okay, yes, so while you don't have somewhere to live, you could actually essentially build whatever the cost of it. We think it's gonna take 6 months to complete the rehab, and you're gonna be unable to live somewhere for 6 months, you can build in whatever your rent cost is into the financing. Yes. Yeah.
And then, yeah.
How hard is it to get the permits for here in the city? Because I heard that
The permits?
Yeah, they're having problems to get permits over here. So a lot of people did decide not to get actually the permits because it just takes too long.
Yeah, I know. Me and him were talking about it earlier. It's
Tedious.
exactly, and people that used to do it a lot have now left their jobs, right? So they're training new people on how to do permits. Things just roll a lot slower. But I think it also depends on what you're looking for as far as the work that needs to be done and what kind of permits you're pulling.
It could be anywhere from 2 to 3 months. Sometimes it can be upwards of 6 months. It all depends on, I think, location is always a huge factor, and the time of the year when you're putting in that request as well.
So now it's like, it's like, you try to do the remodeling now, you need to have good numbers in the property. If not, you're gonna lose money there too, right?
That's why I always say it's like down to the risk reward of like when you're ready to take on, because again, it's like the unexpected. So you can prepare for it, but you don't know until you know. Good question. Yeah.
So for first time investors that do this route, what are the biggest challenges? Obviously, working with the city is a challenge, right? But, just what are other challenges that you see?
I'll let you take it first if you want.
Yeah, I would say finding the right GC. You're gonna get a lot of different bids, some low, some high, some right in the middle, and that's a direct correlation to their quality of work. There's some people that they do it super low because call it for what it is. They may need the job, it may be their first one, they kind of just want a chance to get started, but the quality of work may not be there. There's people who are able, like GCs, to get more things in-house and have subcontractors. Some offer a full team. So it's like asking those proper questions of when you're interviewing the GC to figure out who it is that you want to work with.
Right. Are you doing the work yourself, or are you subcontracting out
Big
all
difference.
this work?
Right.
Because that's gonna be a lot different. You don't know who you're getting when you're working with that type of person. So yeah, I'd say finding the right people to help you, and then underestimating the budget and the overall timeline and cost. Right. So while you can put down as little as 3.5% for an FHA 203K, there's also things that need to be factored in, like soft costs, things like pulling permits. Do you need to hire an architect? Do you have to have some reserves for your rent roll or whatever it's costing you to live for however much time it takes? So people see renovation loan and 100% financing and as low as 3.5% down. It's going to cost you a little bit more than that,
And stress.
to be honest. Stress, time, and like Lizzie said, I think one of the really cool points that she made was it will feel like a full-time job. If anyone here has ever done a fix and flip, or if that's all you do, you spend a lot of time at these projects. And with elevated home prices, interest rates, cost of materials, labor, people are getting paid more, and it's made these deals tougher to come by. But this absolutely is the biggest value-add product out there that you could do, in my opinion.
And
With
also, you
little
never
cost.
know when you knock down a wall, what's really going to be behind it. Like, you hope and that it's going to be hopefully, a low-bearing wall. But a lot of times, if you're trying to open up the floor plan more, you don't know until you knock it down of what's really behind and what the condition is. Good question. Yeah.
What happens if you go over budget? You read the numbers? We're like, let's say the plans change.
They will.
So what happens to that?
So that's what we tried to essentially help you with in the beginning, is we're going to overestimate the budget by about 10 to 15%. So we try to mitigate your risk by doing that up front. But if we go over budget, it's just going to come down to what the after repair value is on what we can lend to you, and obviously what you qualify for, because it's still a loan that you're qualifying for. So the higher you go in terms of your budget, the more money you're borrowing, the higher your debt ratio is going to be. You just have to make sure that you still qualify for the loan. But yeah, we could essentially, if we're getting bids that we need to then reassess your loan and increase the budget, that can be done.
And for Comar specifically, they did run out of budget and they tapped into their contingency fund as well. What ended up happening is everything was able to be done what he thought he wanted, but then he wanted to add some extra touches, so he just came out of pocket another $15K to finish the work and just paid the GC directly. Yes.
what is the connection on the monthly payments and this variable of the project? You know, so we're taking out the loan, and it could be a year in before we know all the costs for the renovation.
You'll have the budget, you'll have the scope of work in the budget.
No, what I'm saying is, like, I'm a new owner, I'm getting all this done through a 203K. At some point, the monthly payments are gonna start,
Correct.
right? But I'm assuming that they're starting before all of the work is being done, has been done. So we don't know the actual number because of these contingencies.
It could ultimately fluctuate, yes. But your payments are going to start when the work starts.
And then they'll just go up,
Based on how,
they'll adjust with the.
correct,
scope of
as the
work.
loan
Come in
amount.
under budget.
Right, as the loan amount adjusts, so will the monthly payments.
Got one more question and networking. So, anybody? Alright.
Thank you, Bernie. Is there a limit on the amount of rehab? Is it like 350,000?
So there's gonna be a max loan amount for a 1-unit property, a 2-unit property, a 3-unit, and a 4-unit. They're all gonna have a different max loan amount. Don't ask me what they are right off the top of my head, cause I'll get it wrong. I could give you close to, but, you know, for a 4-unit property, I think you can do a FHA loan up to like 1.4 million. I believe, somewhere in that ballpark. I should know that because I have one.
So we want to thank Lizzie and Mike. They dropped a ton of knowledge. 3 takeaways that I